Welcome to Launch Code, a premier business podcast, starring Evan Hafer, Matt Best, and Jared Taylor.
Oh, we just clapped in.
Oh shit, we're just clapping
We just
in.
clapped in.
Okay, super excited for Donnie Vincent. This was my favorite interview of last year. He's like the most interesting man in the world. It's like talking to the most interesting man in the fucking world. It's awesome.
I was rolling through his Instagram in front of him, creeping on him, and there's some really cool stuff going on over there, brother.
It's a little bizarre to be sitting here with you guys and hearing you say that, so I know you're both full of shit.
No, dude, whatever. Like it's
No
always.
way.
So last year we went down the rabbit hole on a cute. I think we split it into 2 episodes.
Yep.
Yeah, we split it into 2 episodes. I want to get an update. So what have you been doing for the last year? All the epic shit, because I know you do a ton of fucking epic shit. And if you don't follow Donnie, you've got to follow him on Instagram. Do you have a Twitter or anything? Do you do any of that stuff?
He does. Sigmonto. Yep.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
Well, how about let's get, just because, I mean, I know Donnie, but I wasn't on the last episode. Give us like, you know,
Give us the
the
abbreviated
couple-minute backlog of what you do, who you are.
Really quick, born and raised in Connecticut. Moved to Minnesota when I was in 10th grade and finished high school. Went to the University of Minnesota and studied wildlife biology and regular biology. And worked as a research biologist for a few years. Studied tigers in Bangladesh, Pacific salmon in Alaska, and ruffed grouse in northern Minnesota. And then from that, I just started. It's bizarre kind of how it started, but I was doing hunts on my own, going up to the Arctic Circle and hunting, and then people just started asking questions around in the hunting community, like, where are you going, what are you doing? And I just started filming this stuff myself with a handy cam. And so the few-minute answer is, the more stuff that I just kept hunting and doing, the more people were asking about what I was up to. And
Kind of build a brand behind it, too,
yeah,
right?
I mean, this was not a plan at all. Like, you know, I was happy doing research and being in the field, and I've always, I don't come from a hunting family, but I've always been a hunter in my mind. Like, I don't even know how it began. I know that there's I have this book. I still have it in my office today, written by a professor, a literary professor out of Arizona named Jack O'Connor. He was a big-time hunter. And he had this book called The Big Game of North America. And it's a really cool big book. My dad got it as a Christmas present. It has a canvas cover. And when you open it up, it just basically goes over all the major species in North America. But there's a really cool painting at the front of every chapter. So it says Dall sheep, and there's a really cool painting of a Dall sheep. And so I just look at these paintings, and then I'd read the stories. And so before I even knew that I was making a cognizant decision of what I wanted to do, I just wanted to hunt. I didn't think about the future or my career or anything. I just wanted to be outside. And so biology gave me that ability. And I was an okay student, but not a great student in college. And so actually my hunting is what got me most of my jobs, just because they needed somebody that they could send out in the jungle or send out in the wilderness for 5-6 months by themselves.
Don't die. Come back with some research.
Don't die. Yeah, don't die, and don't call us.
And you're going to be by yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm good.
And so that got me the door to be open. And then just through hunting, I met other hunters, and I met guys that had TV shows, and those guys wanted some footage that I was shooting for their TV show, and here I am.
Do you primarily bow hunt or rifle or
bow? Like 99%. I've killed a moose with a muzzleloader.
Whoa.
Which was kind of cool.
Like a modern muzzleloader, or like full on,
like a
ramrod?
modern, no,
Okay.
a modern
Yeah,
muzzleloader. Yeah, and it was still a riot, but it was fun. And then I killed a sheep in Russia with a rifle because they wouldn't let me bring my bow.
Okay.
What?
At that time, silent weapons were illegal in Russia.
God.
In Mazda,
strange.
What?
Silent. That's what they
That's
call
a
it.
thing?
Silent weapons. Yeah.
In Russia,
Wouldn't
they
that
have
be a
rules?
bat too? Can't bring any bats.
Yeah.
But,
Hammers.
Yeah, hammers.
This is weird. I think they're probably going after suppressors, right? And just a bow happens to fall under that
Yeah.
category.
Probably.
Russians are crafty, man. You don't know what they can do some weird stuff with things.
I want to know what you've been doing, man, for the last year. I mean, I watch your Instagram, so I know you've been all around. Like, where are you at right now? Where have you been? What have you been up to?
Just hunting. I mean, we did this podcast the same time last year and shot, and then just were business stuff in the spring, working on a lot of client work through Sick Manta, our production company. And then once August hits, it's just in the tent. So between August 15th this year, I think I left. Basically, it's August 15th through Christmas Eve. And just basically, I think I counted this year just because I was curious, but I showered 5 times between August 15th and November 15th.
It's pretty much like Jared, our business partner, but he's not
same.
hunting. Do you just have like 9 freezers full of meat at your house?
I donate a lot of it to family and friends, and then if I'm super remote in the wilderness, I'll donate a lot of it to like a native community or whatever. There's always elders that have the inability to hunt anymore, or they have something that they really enjoy eating. Like from one time I was in British Columbia, and there was a little old lady, she loves stone sheep, and I'd arrowed a stone sheep, and so I gave her all the stone sheep meat.
That is phenomenal.
Just like,
freaking out.
Oh, freaking out. And then I did a goat hunt right afterwards, and I killed my goat on the first day of the hunt. So I'd been gone probably 4 days, 2 days to hike in, 1 day to kill the goat, 2 days to hike out, so maybe 4 or 5 days, and she already had it gone. It was gone.
Really?
Yeah.
Just charged through it?
Yeah, her and her family just
That's one of the things that's super rewarding for me is, I shot my elk this year in Utah, and, like I got it processed and rolled by the office, and I gave everybody elk meat.
Yeah.
And everyone was like, "Oh my God, this is so awesome!" And it's like there's just something really rewarding sharing that.
It is. It's
Well,
it's one of the greatest aspects.
You could probably
of
speak
hunting.
to it better than me, but I think a lot of people don't know when people go out and trophy hunt and do a lot of other things. It actually supports the local community monetarily quite often, and then also by donations of the meat to the local tribes or the communities, and like they don't have the option to feed off that kind of meat. So
yeah, I mean, there's a lot of give and take. Just traveling there, and I mean, there's definite economics that come into the, through hotel stays, through buying tags, you're contributing money to the state, things like that. But, as a hunter, it's also like a lot of people have this misconception that, oh, you're just going to the Northwest Territory, you just want to shoot a monster caribou or something like that. But I think way more guys that just have an extreme wherewithal, they just want to see the country. Right, like I've had people kind of get down on me sometimes saying, well, I enjoy learning about our ancestry, right, and where we all come from, basically an original 31 society of hunters and gatherers. 100%, 99%, 98% of people on Earth today have come from a hunting and gathering background. So there's a lot of hypocrisy right now, and there's a lot of misinformation, and so people think that, back in our ancestry, people would just hunt where they lived, right? We hunted and gathered. So you would just travel with your clan, and that's where you would hunt. And this idea of traveling and hunting is gross and barbaric to people now, but really it's just an adaptation of time, right? We now have modern travel. We now have airplanes. And so it's, yes, our ancestors couldn't do it, but it's pretty cool that we can go to the Arctic Circle and see the Arctic Circle and hunt as though we were from that clan or tribe. And then we can go to Nevada, and we can go to Alaska, and we can go to Iowa, and we can try and see all these things. And that's far more than chasing a set of headgear or hide or meat. Is just inserting yourself into that habitat, that culture of people, and then just engaging with it on all aspects, including bringing money to the community.
I love that. Do you have like a running toll of how many animals and states that you've killed? Have you like logged up one in all 50 states?
No. Oh no, not even close. But I tend to, some guys do that. Some guys like chase everything, and they just want to, it's almost like, almost becomes like a checklist.
Yeah.
To them. And I'm
See more about the experience.
Yeah, and I'm repeatable. Like Doll sheep is one of my favorite things to hunt. So I'll hunt Doll sheep as many times before.
Why? Like what?
Just being in the mountains, like waking up on the tippity top, and just seeing the clouds and the rain, and it's super physical to get there. And so it's just your legs are burning, your shoulders hurt, the packs are full. It's extreme, scary, cold, wet, miserable.
It's expensive, and then and there's guys that can afford the tag and can afford to do it with a guide. But there's 2 barriers to entry to the sheep. One is can you afford it, and then number 2, can you physically do it?
Right.
Because it's not like, oh, I'm going to go sit in this stand and pop this deer, like hunting in Texas or something like that. But the sheep, Like I think what the minimum an outfitter is 21 days or 14 days.
Yeah, no, you can. Yeah, I mean, you can do them for sure if in 10 days, 7, 8, 9, 10 days. But and there's two ways to do it. And there's one is hiring an outfitter, which is very expensive, and the other one is drawing a tag, and you can go and guide yourself.
So are you drawing tags? Is that
no, I'm definitely paying outfitters to where I'm going.
Okay.
Most of the places I'm going, like Alaska, I drew a tag in Alaska a few years ago. But still in Alaska, because it's so dangerous and they've had to rescue so many hunters, that they force you to be guided when you're there. So
Alaska, you have to have a guide for moose, brown bear, and the sheep.
For sheep, goats, and brown bears, not for moose.
Moose, you don't have to have a guide?
Moose, black bears, and caribou you can hunt on your own.
What would you say, like, the closest call, whether it was an animal or environmental, to, like, man, this might be my my checkout of life here?
I've had several.
Really?
I've had several where it's just like take a step back and just. But
Can you give a specific example?
Yeah, one that comes to mind. I was hunting Dall sheep in Alaska in a blizzard, and I was going down this little tiny single track, muddy little chute, and there's this one aspect of there was a big huge flat rock that came out that you had to. It was too washed out to go underneath it, and it was too steep to go above it at all. So you had to go around it, and just kind of your pecs would hug the edge of this rock while you used your abs to kind of just keep you in place, right? So it's just baby steps, and just your abs are totally engaged the whole time, just swinging your torso around. Well, when I was going around it, I was just using the tips of my fingers on both sides of the boulder for a little added insurance.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole rock broke free and just slid like 6 inches, like forcing me out on that ledge. So I was just sitting there like just totally flexed, totally just waiting for everything to settle down. And then when it settled down, I just literally like a half inch at a time just, got around it. But had it fallen, it was only like 60, 70 feet down, which would suck.
Yeah.
But then that rock would have been literally
you.
on my head and chest when
Right.
I hit. Yeah, it would have been soup ladle stuff.
Oof.
I'd still be there right now.
You'd still be there.
Oh, yeah. My
You would
photographer,
have been
William.
you would have been the animals you're hunting's food.
Yeah. William would have filmed it, stamped it, called
Right.
it a career. That would have been that. Yeah. And then I've had a couple of bears, that nothing that's touched me or anything, but definitely a couple have gotten my attention, Been surrounded by a couple of packs of wolves, which sounds sensational, and it is, but it's not scary in the least. It's just, if you watch it, if you experience it, and you don't know anything about wolves, it can be really scary to have 10 wolves around you, but
Why isn't that scary? Because, I mean, were you not worried that the wolf pack would just start ripping you
they're
apart?
just not. They just don't do that.
You're
they're
not
just,
part of their. You're not part of the food source.
Yeah, they just
Probably
came
more
in to check
curiosity.
you out. I mean, they're definitely hunting you for sure. I had a wolf biologist yell at me for saying that in a podcast, but
Yell at you for saying that they're not hunting or hunting you?
for hunting me.
Okay.
She's like, no, they're not. They were just checking you out, and they are totally. But the reason they're checking you out is they're looking at all
are
available
you
food
food?
sources.
Yeah.
And I knew they'd make the right decision. But when they're in and around you, like literally we're in your hotel room right now, there'd be 10 wolves in here. And they're just there's 3 or 4 behind you, off to the side, out in front. And they're really cool. They're really good about posting up a wolf or two. So you're like, oh, there's wolves right there. And then like they're moving.
The ones are behind you,
in
circling.
on you. Yeah. But you just see it in their eyes. They know, like, you can see they're measuring you up, And then it's just like, yeah, let's get out of here.
That doesn't sound like a fun death. Wolves go for like the butthole first.
Death by consumption, man.
Yeah, man, that's rough.
Yeah, and all I had was my bow, and I've had sows with cubs, things like that, but nothing. I've hunted Alaska 25 or 26 times, something like that, and only once I've brought a gun.
Really?
Right.
Yeah, no sidearm protection, no. But I've started bringing a 12 gauge a few years ago because we had a run in with a sow with 3 3-year-old cubs at 20 yards, 30 yards, something like that. And I had
What's a sow?
crew, female grizzly bear.
Okay.
With 3 3-year-olds, so her cubs are almost as big as she is.
Oh, damn.
And we bumped into them point blank, and we knew they were there. They didn't know we were there, which is ultra dangerous because now I have to surprise her.
Right. You have to
So-
identify the fact that you're there, right?
Yep. So I just said, hopefully she's a really good mom, and
They're very protective of their babies.
100%, yeah.
So I just said, "Hey, bear," and she was awesome. She just saw me and just whoop, took everybody and ran. But had she come,
or had you been in between her and her cubs, game over.
Right.
It'd be.
Did you see
Numbness.
the video of that guy who's back in bear country and pepper sprayed the bear but got chewed up real nasty? Do you know him?
No, what that's.
You know he had a sidearm with him.
Sidearm?
He did. He had one with him.
And he didn't want to shoot the bear, right?
No, he couldn't get to it because it was on top of him.
Oh, okay.
And then so he got up. It came back a second time.
Yeah.
So like a bear, if it comes once, if it comes again, it's coming. It's not going to mock or bluff towards you. Like if it gets after your ass one time and you escape and get away, and it's coming back, like it's coming.
Kill mode.
It's coming again. It's not going to bluff.
Yeah,
again.
they feel the need to eliminate the threat. So that's why they say play dead, because you're not going to kill a grizzly generally. And like everyone that I put faith into, everyone that I give street credit to, I don't know a single guy that carries a sidearm for bears. Like.
What about like
almost
bear
never ends
spray,
well.
or do any of those guys
That's
carry spray?
far more.
Yeah.
That's either a
Why
large
is
rifle.
that? Because
it's just not a very applicable weapon when it really is going to come down to it. You're really not shooting the bear until it makes contact with you, until it's actually physically impacted your body. If you shoot them, because oftentimes they'll stop at 2-3 yards, so you just kind of have to stand there and take it.
Right.
Just swallow that engagement and just hope he or she stops. And if they don't stop, then you have reason to be defending your life or playing dead. And you should probably just play dead, because unless you have a large 12 gauge slug gun or a large rifle, it's probably not going to go well for you, even with a sidearm. Even
Makes
if you
sense.
pulled your sidearm out, and I don't know anything about pistols, never even fired one actually, which is kind of sad because I won a Kimber Custom 245.
They have
like 15 years ago
I'll
on an
tell
auction.
you what, I'll trade you pistol training for bow training.
Done.
Okay, sweet.
Stamp it. But I want a Kimber 45,
No,
and it still
with
sits in my
the Camp Guard,
basement.
which is a 10 mil round, shoots 185 grain, and I think it holds 8 rounds. You've shot one in Colorado.
Unless somebody has the training like you guys have, the bear's probably going to rip your skull off before you kill it with a pistol.
My cousin did grizzly bear research out of the University of Montana. He was part of the Genome Project.
Sure.
And I talked to a couple of his friends on that project, and they were all in the same sheet. They're like, spray is like the best deterrent, the best thing that you could carry, just statistically, because you're exactly right. Like most people don't have the training in order to put those rounds on target in a time of stress. I mean, you're in sensory overload at that point. So, getting a high caliber pistol out while, you're trying to defend your life against, what's an average grizzly weigh? 800.
Yeah, I mean, a brown bear is going to go at 800 to 1,000 pounds. Grizzly bear is going to be 450, 500, 6.
So
humans
it's
don't
not a
scare
rational.
me, but bears are terrifying.
It's not a rational thing for people to think that they're going to be able to defend themselves with a pistol, but a spray puts a big cloud right out. And I was talking to this chick. She was like 100 and nothing, like 110 or something like that, and she had dosed I don't know how many bears because she was out looking for bears. That's what she did. And it was actually really interesting to talk to them because obviously they're biologists and they're not there to hunt, but they run into bears because that's what they're trying to do. Right. So, talking to them, it changed my mind completely in that, where it's like if I was going in someplace that was bear country, I was like, fuck, I'm not going to worry about carrying a pistol. Pistol's a great deterrent for people.
Yes.
But not really for bears, right? It's the
based on your knowledge of like ballistic charts and stuff, I mean,
500 Magnum. Go big or go home.
Sacrifice. That's a heavy gun. It's a big boy. I mean, a brown bear, grizzly. How much penetration do you think you're going to get on one of those things? I mean, with a pistol.
But quite literally, if you're like an excellent marksman that's had years of training and you're putting rounds on target with, let's say, like a 357 or something like that, like you're going to get penetration because it's a supersonic projectile. I mean, I think it's what subsonic goes into, like, depending on the load. But I mean, you get a lot of lead moving at very high speeds, and typically you're going to be within, let's say, 15 yards, right? So you're going to get a significant amount of penetration, but like we've got to talk about velocity and movement. So you have 800 pounds of animal moving towards you at X speed, and with a significant amount, I would imagine, of hormones pushing through at
Oh,
that
yeah,
point.
it's like crack cocaine. Even if you get good
PCP.
penetration, he's still got a minute of
have
mall
to-
time before he's going to even
you
think
have
about
to
that wound.
end its life.
Yeah.
And so even if you're putting something in its heart within 15 yards at a full charge, you've shot several animals. Like, you're still going to have a certain amount of movement moving towards you. And ultimately, what I've also heard is it's if you're not putting it in the eyes or the face, ultimately it's pissing it off.
Yeah, like, oh, you really want to fight now, bastard.
And this is
Yeah.
hearsay. Like, this is me talking to people because I was hyper interested in this, spending time in the backcountry. Like, hey, what do you guys think? Because I used to carry a fucking pistol. I used to carry a 9mm. And, well, first of all, I mean, 9mm versus bear, it's never going to work.
Well, in your hands, that's a different story. Like,
It is, but I mean, I'm
safe.
talking about putting headshots in a bear with a skull. What's the skull thickness of a grizzly bear, Donnie?
Oh, I mean, right between the eyes, it's really thick. It's
Yeah.
probably, I don't know, at least, not quite a half inch or whatever, but it's gonna be dense. There's been plenty of bullets that have skipped off there. You'll see in our new film, we shoot a bear there at point blank range with a .338, and the bullet doesn't go through the skull.
When I
Really?
shot a pig at
Yeah.
point blank,
Wow.
well, I shot a full pig at point blank range. Like, we were getting ready to harvest it out in the field. And that's exactly what it did. The round glanced off its skull, and the fucking pig busted out of the pen. And we were like popping rounds at it, trying to shoot this fucking horror. Like, it was actually a really bad experience for this animal. Like, it was a really bad experience because you had a bunch of people that didn't quite understand what to do once the round didn't go through its fucking head.
It's supposed
And
to be
so
dead.
you're like, but it's supposed to be a pig, and this is supposed to work because it works in the movies, right? Like, no, it didn't
No,
fucking work.
it didn't.
It really just pissed it off.
And that's the thing, ultimately, like with bears, the variables are too great.
Yeah.
Right? There's too many. And like you don't want to shoot a bear unless it's called defense of life and property. Really, you don't want to shoot a bear unless it's touching you.
Right.
There's going to be a full-scale investigation, and hopefully you killed it for the right reason other than just being fearful.
Fear.
And with pepper spray, like that bear comes and stops at 5 yards, you can dump that can of pepper spray into his face, and you don't have to call the troopers or anything like that other than to alarm them that there might be a bear in the area that's upset. But yeah, it's just far more than anything, it's being a good woodsman, knowing where you are, knowing the animals, and hoping for the animals continuing to make really good decisions. Not hoping, but you get what I'm saying. Like, it's up to them to make part of the decision too. And so I've always had really good luck. Even after bears, I had a grizzly bear in the Arctic a few years ago. He just happened to be walking right at my tent. I was just like, oh man, here we go. Like, he's just lumbering up the trail. So he's coming right at us, coming right at me. I was by myself. So I stood up and I'm like, hey, bear. And he pops up on his rear feet, looks at me, drops down, and just starts coming triple time. Now, he's not coming to kill me, but I've piqued his interest.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's hungry, grumpy because he's hungry, but I've piqued his interest. So, and the thing I was most afraid of is I didn't have the wind. So the wind was blowing from my left to right, and he's running straight at me.
Oh, so he couldn't smell you?
No, so I ran at him. But I ran at him,
Jesus.
At a slight angle
Right.
because I wanted to get distance between me and the bear, but I wanted him to get my wind. And so basically I sprinted at him and just curved off to the side because I had to cover ground as fast as I could towards him while inching away from him off to the side, flanking him. And once he got my wind, that dude turned inside out.
You just spun around and took off the other way?
Rear legs in front of the front legs, just absolutely digging deep. And the dude just ran as far as I could see in the horizon. I could still see him running, terrified for his life. And he was probably 450, 500-pound boar.
Right.
Yeah. Could kill me easily. But just that human scent, that's a big deterrent for them. Now, I have heard some horror stories from friends of mine where they bump into a bear and the bear just comes. I had one happen in Alaska this year. They, I won't say names or the situation, but it was first night in camp. They were hunting brown bears, and the head guide went down to get water, and just this bear popped in across the river from him and just freaking came. And they shot the bear as it was going to pounce on top of him.
Wow.
And it was a young boar. That's oftentimes what it is. They
Yeah,
get
they don't have
kicked
the
away from their
experience,
mom.
yeah.
They don't have the experience. Like these big, giant, 10-foot, scary. They have so much confidence, and they're so aware of their surroundings. That's not really your guy, but it's these adolescent bears that are.
Was the guide okay?
Guide was okay. Bear was dead.
Right.
Which is 99% of the time what happens. You'll hear about bear fatalities, killing people, stuff like that. But
How many bear deaths are there a year, like in the United States?
Tons. I don't know, but I would guess like between black bears and grizzly bears are illegal to hunt in the lower 48 right now. You mean bears killing people?
Yeah.
Oh, one or two.
Oh, okay.
One or two.
Yeah, there's a couple.
I mean,
There's a couple attacks every year. And
yeah.
Deaths are very, very rare.
Yeah, bears oftentimes you hear about people being scalped, and
Yeah.
like you saw a video from that guy,
Yeah.
right? So a lot of times the bears are trying to do is they're trying to grab your skull and just kind of pop it
ya.
and kill you, but our skulls are too big, so their teeth just drag up on either sides and they scalp you.
Yeah, like D-glove.
Yeah.
That's why you hear about a lot of guys getting scalped. They really don't want to kill you.
Yeah, I still do. I had a place up in Colorado, up behind Boulder, and there were two bears that were like, I was intimately familiar with them. Like,
Sure.
I would be packing, getting ready for a trip, and I'd have the front door to my house open, have my bags out on the porch, pulling everything in, getting ready for, to go overseas. So it's like a lot of shit that you got to pack, and you're organizing everything. And I'd turn around, and he'd be sitting on my fucking deck, like just watching me do what I do. But I got really not like, I got super intimately familiar with them. I knew exactly which bear was who, knew like their demeanor, whether or not they were going to just like stay around or whether or not they were going to jet. I woke up one night and I had to like buckle everything down. Any scent of anything, like these dudes are digging through anything to find anything.
Food
They're
hounds.
scavengers.
Yeah.
And I heard my shocks on my truck. And what I'd done is I'd taken a bunch of trash and put it in the back of my truck and like shut the canopy and stuff. And I heard the shocks on my truck and I was like, and I'm like, what the fuck? So I get out my flashlight and this bear is in the back of my truck, like bouncing up and down on the tailgate. Like going, like he's got his like paws up there trying to get up there, and I was like, "Hey, get out of here!" and like took off, right? But it was funny because my wife at the time,
Hey man, you could have just asked. I would have opened up the food for you.
Yeah, my wife at the time, she was like so freaked out about the bears. It's like, man, these dudes are like, I would never classify them whatsoever as my friend. I just knew like, hey, I know these guys. Like they're just looking for trash. They're just looking for things to eat, or they're looking to just like look at you and see what the fuck you're doing.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, they just wanted to like watch. So I'd be out doing maintenance in my creek in the front yard, and you'd look up and there'd be some asshole sitting there like watching you like you were more interesting than him doing something.
Hey there,
else.
Evan. How's it going?
Yeah,
That's
and,
exactly it.
But it's funny because last year when we went to Yellowstone, we went fishing. Jay and I had hiked like quite a ways back into some epic streams back there, and there was fucking scat everywhere. And that night, we heard this. And it had to be a bear because he's fucking playing or doing something
Fishing.
in the creek. Yeah,
Probably
You're
fishing.
Like, whoosh, you hear him like plunge and come out and plunge and come out.
Yeah,
They're like
he's
right
fishing.
next
Yeah.
to the creek, and you're just going, God damn it, just don't come up here. I just want to go to sleep. I don't want to.
Oh, yeah.
I don't want you to come up here. And but it was definitely unnerving. Like it's definitely unnerving. I can't imagine like you spend so much time in the field. You're probably much more comfortable.
Yeah,
in
in
that environment.
certain situations, there's definitely nights that get long, right?
Yeah.
There's definitely, but I've had, it can get unnerving. I had a bear in Alaska a few years ago on a river called the Kayakuk. I had a bear. I was so tired. I had a bear tear a hole in our tent, and this was I was hunting with a couple of buddies of mine that like to kind of live it up a little bit, and so they had high top cots, and the bear tore a hole in the side of the tent and came in and was standing on my cot. What? And I didn't even wake up.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Really?
And then, and then one of my buddies he wakes me up and he's like, "Hey, there's a bear." And I said, "Dude, there's not a bear." And he's like, "No, there's a bear." And I said, It's never a bear. I've been, I can't even tell you how many nights the person I'm with has woke me up and said, "Dude, there's a bear." And I just say, "There's no bear, just go back to sleep." He's like, "No, there's a bear." And I kept arguing with him. He grabbed our other friend's pistol, went out the front of the tent and shot the bear dead.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, it wasn't a big bear, but it was like a 200-pound black bear. But yes, and then in the morning, we didn't know it was on my cot that night, but in the morning I had muddy paw prints on my sleeping bag. But I didn't even wake up. And I'll guarantee you he tore a hole in the tent, probably stuck his head in, crawled in, looking for food,
Right.
and was like, shit, there's people in here.
Yeah. Oops. No
Yep.
food in here.
And he got out, and the funniest thing was we were filming, and he pooped in all of our camera cases, which was pretty funny.
That's awesome.
He opened up the Pelican cases, ripped the foam out, and pooped.
He's
in
probably
them.
like, no food in there. Here's some poop for you, brother.
Yeah, it was awesome.
What a
None of the
dick bear.
none of the cases were mine, but it looked like little mounds of raspberry jam or blueberry jam in each one. Yeah.
What would you say like the most beautiful or rewarding place that you've been able to hunt in, as far as just maybe environmentally or?
The Arctic Circle for sure.
Really?
Yep.
Why?
It's so wide open, and you have massive bull moose and massive herds of caribou, and that's one of the coolest things to see. Just caribou migrating, right? You're just sitting up there, and you see all these different rock formations from where the natives used to hunt, and just watching the caribou come through, and the moose and grizzly bears and wolves, like sitting at night, you're sitting in your camp at night, sun is just set, northern lights are coming out, wolves are howling, it's just incredible. Really incredible.
That's phenomenal.
How do you do it, man? Like, how do you balance what you're doing for a profession and your home life? Like, being gone a lot has to like pay a toll.
Yep.
How are you balancing that?
It's hard. It's hard to just visualize, your family and friends at home, and sometimes it's really hard because this has become a job.
Right.
And I don't mean that in a negative sense. A lot of guys warned me, a lot of my friends warned me when I first started doing this, like, don't do this. You're going to start to hate hunting. Because they had friends that had TV shows that just started, the current TV shows that absolutely hate hunting, but it's now their job. And I never wanted to go down that road. That's why I just wanted to make films how I wanted to make them. And but sometimes when it's not going well, like I'm just not finding the animals or the animal that I'm looking for, and we're putting in major miles, and we're dehydrated, and we're hungry, and then your family's at home, and there's some long nights in the teepee.
Right.
Long nights, yeah, and sometimes it's like you start feeling those long nights 5, 6, 7, 8 days into a 30-day trip,
Right.
and there's no getting out. There's no calling it early. There's no one
Right,
coming to get
right.
you.
You're there.
You're there. Yeah, that's that. And so, but it's a balance for sure. And you have to have confidence in your family at home, and have you'll see your friends when you see them. And I'm not complaining by any stretch of the imagination, but a lot of people come up to me and say, "Oh man, you have the dream job," and I do absolutely love what I do. But if they had any idea at all what it takes, it's not going hunting with your buddies, it's
Right.
not going fishing with your buddies, it's not, hey, let's go into the back country and caribou hunt, you go that way, I'll go this way, if we're successful, great, if we're not, great, we'll grab a beer at the airport on the way home, and this has been an awesome, it's almost that cool, but
But yeah, you're applying
not.
business to it, so the expectation is success. And if you don't find success, then that's your livelihood as far as
Yeah.
the creation of content around
Yeah.
the hunt and everything.
and then
so.
creating good content, right? Like the guys that I work with, my team, they're stupidly talented. I
Yeah.
would not be anywhere without them. And I far more than just me by myself, like just having the musicians that we work with, the photographers that we work with, the editors. I say editors, musicians, and photographers. There's one of each. We're basically a crew of 4, but these guys just bleed for this stuff. Like our new film, I was just watching it yesterday, stuff that we're editing together, and it's so stupid good.
But what people don't understand, though, about the hunting is they're seeing the finished product. I own every film Donnie's ever done on DVD.
Right.
Because that's the only way you can do it is you buy a freaking DVD.
No, we stream now. We
Thank
do stream now.
God, welcome to the 2000s. But they're seeing the finished product, and having dabbled and done some filming in the hunting space, hunting by yourself is one thing, and it is amazing, and it's a wonderful experience. The ability to share what you've experienced is another true gift. What people don't understand is how much harder it is to hunt with a camera guy. It takes it to a whole different level, Because if the animal and the stuff's not framed up correctly and the story's not being told correctly, and you don't have just one stand now, you got to have 2 or 3 stands hung up. You got to find if you get a trio, that'd be perfect right there. But shit, where are we going to put the camera guy? So the degree of difficulty is exponentially increased when you have a crew out there in the woods. So it's not just one guy putting off scent. Now you got 4, 2, 3 guys putting off scent. So that's what people don't see and what they don't understand. And if it's not, I view Donnie as a hunter. Donnie's also an artist, in my opinion, what he puts out. But it is so complicated, and it can, for a guy like me, it takes away from it. Because I'm not delivering art like you are. I'm just trying to do something cool.
There's no question. It definitely muddies the water, but
2 dudes, 3 dudes tromping through the woods, man.
Yeah,
Camera gear, all that stuff.
I'm the reason this works. This is my opinion. People ask me all the time, like, how are you able to do this for a job? Like, a lot of guys do this with TV shows, and they're pushing sponsors, and they're backed by big companies, and I don't do that, and so but they ask how that's possible, and really the notion that I fall back on is that I'm a hunter, right? I'm a storyteller. These are things like I'm not doing this because I think it's cool or I think it's interesting. If I was a billionaire or flat broke, I'd be doing this exact same thing. I'd still be finding my way to the Arctic. I'd still be arrowing caribou, and I'd still be sitting down to tell somebody either that wasn't with me, wanted to go, or just wanted to lend me their ear. I'd still be telling them all the details and the emotions that I was going through and the cool things that I saw. And it's how I started, and it's why I think it relates to people. It's because I suffer for this in a sincere fashion.
Before we wrap up, I have one final question. What's your guilty pleasure? There's no way you don't bring like an iPod or your favorite book or something and spend 30 days out in the wilderness.
That's a really good question. There's 2. One are just shitty magazines like Maxim. Is a good one.
I would not have guessed that.
I would not have guessed that.
I was going to think something like some type of strange aromatic candle or some shit like that.
The other one is candy.
Really?
I knew there was going to be a food of some sort.
Yeah,
What
Laffy
kind?
Taffy, and Starburst.
Right.
Yeah, we bring Starburst on every single trip. It
Is that
started
just
out.
your hike in where you just start chewing, get a little sugar in your body?
Yeah,
and,
and it started out. We were in Alaska several years ago, and we flew in. A friend of mine who's a biologist there. She was flying surveys in a helicopter one day and just asked. We had just finished a sheep hunt. She said, "Hey, do you and the crew want to go with me in the helicopter and we'll go fly surveys?" And so we did. And the first camp we flew into were these 2 pudgy little junior biologists were working there, and they had a huge 41-ounce bag of Starburst because in Alaska you buy everything in bulk,
right?
And we just piss pounded that bag of Starburst, and they were super upset when they came back from their helicopter ride. So now we buy a 41-ounce bag of Starburst at Walmart before we go on every trip.
Let me ask this question.
And we pack it in.
Matt and Evan, what were your guilty pleasures on deployment?
I'm assuming coffee.
Did you drink coffee, Evan?
I drank a lot of coffee. Yeah, I carried coffee. I didn't have a guilty pleasure really. I mean, I had a.
You can say
I carried a Thoreau in my right pocket for 9 years, so that wasn't a guilty pleasure. It became more of like a constant reminder as far as like where I wanted to be and the type of life that I wanted. And I had outlined it and made fucking notes in every page.
Thoreau.
Walden. Yeah.
Oh, I thought you meant like a Thoreau blanket. What?
So it wasn't that. It was just more like, hey, and I knew I was only here for either forever in the context of I wasn't going back, or I was going back to something that, a place that I really wanted to be. It wasn't a guilty pleasure. I didn't really have any. Like we pretty much, like when you work for the agency at that point, like you could fucking order a pallet of Snickers if you wanted it. It didn't really matter. I mean, the gluttony of the United States government at certain points is just kind of unreal. Like
what about you? You had some. I know you did.
No, mine's music, man. That's always been my therapy. So I usually find one song and I'll listen to it on repeat. Even like in the set of Range 15 and stuff, I would just one song, listen to that every day. Really gets my mind straight where I don't even really focus on the music. It's just kind of like a closes out reality so I can just focus on internalize everything.
What type of music?
Super dependent. I mean, anywhere, every genre.
Like death metal or like John Mayer. I mean,
definitely not John Mayer. I prefer Penis Not in My Mouth.
I do have 2 more questions, which are super easy, man. Like, out of everything that you've shot, what do you enjoy eating? Like, what's like your favorite meat? If you're, whether you're blending it with other or whatever it is.
Can I give you 2 answers?
Please, yeah.
First one is moose, elk, Dall sheep. They're all slightly different, but fantastically splendid. The second answer is black bear meat is fantastic, as is grizzly bear meat, and a bunch of hunters are about. I'll probably get 100 emails about this, but hunters, by and large, often leave bear meat behind. They literally go and kill bears just for the hide, which is
It's one of the only
in my
species where you
opinion,
don't have to take meat with you.
It's and it's one of the biggest reasons I think that grizzly bear hunting was just shut down in BC is because the people in BC were making an emotional decision. The environmentalists that live in Vancouver, a very small group of people, were making a decision for a very large province and a huge population of wild animals. So everything I've ever killed has been really fantastic to eat. The ungulates are, the elk and deer are really fantastic, but
Do you have any bear meat? Because I've only had bear meat in stores and purchasing it from a market. I've never had like a friend kill some and get some.
The problem with the bear meat is trichinosis. So
that's
it's a
okay.
meat
I mean,
eater,
parasites.
Which will
no big deal.
Not good, but you have to. I think you have to
You
get
gotta
the
live.
internal temperature to 160 for 3 minutes to kill it.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Oh, done and done.
He probably
Worms
has
are worms.
trichinosis.
Yeah.
My great uncle, he would hunt, like he hunted every day. He died at like 87 years old. He was in Boone and Crockett.
Wicked.
And he had Walker, Walker Tennessee Hounds. So he was a fantastic cougar and bear hunter. He would fly in his little Piper Super Cub out in the middle of nowhere with one hound, dump it down somewhere, put it on a track, and he had just the most epic fucking adventure stories on the planet. But he ate everything.
Yeah.
And
That's
if
how
he
it should
didn't,
be.
he would grind it up and he would turn it into dog food.
And that's fine.
And but he was adamant about it. Even at 87, he was like, you eat what you kill.
Absolutely.
And you don't leave anything back. Like, you can use it all.
I got in an argument with a buddy of mine last year. We were in BC, and I'd killed this big black bear, and we cleaned it out. And after I had brought the bear meat to a processor to store before we were flying home, he's like, "Are you really going to eat that?" And I said, "Yeah, absolutely." And he's like, "It's not edible. It's disgusting. They eat rotten fish and all these things." He's going on. I go, and I was coming up the next year. So I said, just in case we don't kill a bear, before I get up here with one of your prior clients, I want you to save me bear meat from the nastiest bear that you kill. The nastiest bear you can find. And they had killed a boar that he knew was somewhere around 15, 16, 17 years old. The thing was nasty. They skun it out. The meat, the fat was yellow. It was slimy. It stunk.
It had been eating fish bear?
Yeah. I'd been living on fish. And so I got there, and he's like, "Here you go." He kept it in the cooler. He's like, "Here you go." Gave to me this hindquarter in a garbage bag. We cooked it that night for everyone at the lodge, and they just hammered it, man.
Really?
Just hammered it. I mean, and there is not that this is. I'm not making a distinction here, but there's probably a half a dozen really pretty girls there, and they just were like dogs hammering this stuff, seconds, thirds, just like pounding it.
So what kind of meat is this? You're like, it's 17-year-old bear.
Yeah. So then he started coming up with all of these. He's like, well, because what we did, we made a roast and then we seared a bunch of it in a pan. So he's like, well, you seared it in butter and then you put it in stock and you made this great stock and then you let it simmer for like 5 hours.
And your point is,
don't blame the bear if you suck at cooking.
Yeah, it's not the animal.
That's my next question, which is like, man, do you consider yourself a guy that like loves to cook? Do you cook a lot?
Yeah, I'm not a chef. No, nowhere near like somebody that is talented in, but yeah, absolutely love it. Like, it's just so rewarding. Like Baker said earlier, with giving it away, also making it for your friends.
Right.
Like when I killed that big deer in North Dakota several years ago from the Rivers Divide, Steve. Like, the final package of Steve, or 4 packages, we made chili. So we had a little eating Steve party.
I think it's awesome because I love cooking for like friends and family come over. It's one of my favorite things to do. But then it's even better when I've killed the animal and then you harvest it, processed it, and then here's the sausages or whatever, or steak that I cooked, but I killed it. It's super rewarding.
And all of this is under fire right now, and it just blows my mind because 13,000 or 15,000 years ago, agriculture was invented. And when it was invented, we stopped wandering around. And when we stopped wandering around, we can now afford to have more than one child. So we started raising bigger families. And this perpetuation of overpopulation and storing our excrement in one location started. And once that clock started, we've never been able to look back.
Right.
But all these people now in New York City and LA and all around the world that don't understand what we do think it's so foreign and so barbaric, yet it's their very beginning. And it's only through laziness, complacency, and someone else doing the killing for them that they're able to sustain their life. And so they have no problems waltzing down to Starbucks and getting something. And even people that claim to be vegetarians or vegans, I got news for you. Hundreds, millions, thousands of acres of land are being turned over so you can grow your crop.
Right.
Tons of fertilizers and phosphoruses are dumped into the land, which find their way to the sea and create these huge hypoxic dead zones. I mean, there's nothing that comes without a footprint. Nothing. And so it's just...
And that's interesting because, like, the Sumerians, right, when we look at Mesopotamia and literally, like, an entire what's called organized civilization, and the reason of its demise was because of what you just explained. So when I hear, and I've talked to vegans and vegetarians, it's like, you guys are dismantling our ecosystem by harvesting animals or being meat eaters, and it's like, hey, do you guys understand that, like, entire civilizations were destroyed because of non-crop rotations, and then basically it was like salination or something like that.
Overgrazing and stuff like that.
And it's just destroying of soils.
And it's just as detrimental. It's the gluttony and the growth in the gluttony that is actually perpetrating that. So
that's right.
And it's funny because when you said that, it's such an interesting perspective, because people, they're saying, you guys are fucking barbarians by doing this. It's like, yeah, but ultimately, if you're going to call me a barbarian, like, the Neanderthals were fairly advanced, specifically related to any other. If we want to go and have that argument, you could say, well, I'll take that as a compliment, I suppose, right?
And that's what it is. It's just people that have misinformation, and they're resting their laurels on things that, they have this idealization of what's going on in the world, and they think that they are living their life, and they just don't have an influence from somebody that has a positivity with the outdoors and is engaging and contributing. And really the only way that we're going to save anything is the only way is to knock down the human population by a couple of billion, but we know that's not going to happen yet. Something's going to have to do that for us. But until that happens, like, the more we can engage with the wild, the more we can restore habitat and conserve and engage with these animals and give back. And same with agriculture. It's the same thing. Like, supporting sustainable practices, supporting responsible farming, ranching, and all these things. It's like trying to make better decisions, even if it's
a balance, and any balance that is required within society amongst humans and business and sports or whatever. It's also required within wildlife and nature. And if you try to we spent, I don't know how much money trying to eradicate wolves at one point, or buffaloes and stuff like that. And if you look at how fragile the ecosystem is, and the hierarchy of species and whatnot, when you start manipulating one, it affects everything. And a lot of people don't realize that, and they just spout off stuff. And it's like, I know more about deer and turkey and ducks and waterfowl than any anti-hunter I've ever met in my entire life, strictly because I've spent so much time outdoors pursuing them, and I feel like I have an intimate relationship with those species. Versus seeing something I don't know anything about on social media and being like, oh, this is, you barbaric, savage bastard. I can't believe you do this. It's like, well, you're eating tofu. Tofu, you say it comes from soy. There is so little, a soybean and the end product of tofu, they have virtually nothing in common. Yeah. It's a white square.
For all the actual people that eat meat, where can they find you on social? Some of the movies and TV that you've done.
One more. Sorry. One more. Sorry. So this year, man, what do you got? Like, what kind of epic shit do you have planned for this year?
You mean hunting or film wise?
Anything.
So we're finishing up a big film project right now. The film will be launched in February, maybe early March, something like that. And I was just working on it yesterday, and it's really sick. And I think it's going to be. It asks a lot of big questions, and it's a little bit uncomfortable and there's some contention in it. So I'm excited for people, hunters and non-hunters, to watch it. And then I have another film that will be coming out later in the year. But as far as filming goes, I'm actually going on, and I have questions about this myself. I'm actually hunting mountain lions for the first time in British Columbia in a couple of weeks. And I've never had any desire at all to hunt mountain lions, just because they do run them with dogs, tree them, and shoot them. And so it's never been something that I've wanted to experience. However, I want to go and film, and I don't know if that I'm going to kill one, but I want to go and film the relationship between the hounds and the cat.
Yeah.
I want to film it kind of in the regard of, dare I say, like Walt Disney's Fox and the Hound, like that, their relationship, and keeping the hunter out of it. So I'm going there to talk with some biologists in BC, go and run cats, see cats, just kind of experience the whole thing and educate myself on what their populations are, what damage they're doing on wild game and domestic game, and then also to just speak with a couple of houndsmen. I'll be spending the majority of July in Australia, in the Northern Territory, just filming. I have a really beautiful piece that we've been constructing from a hunt that we did there with some Aboriginal guys hunting Asiatic water buffalo. Wow. And so I just want to go back and live with the black fellas, they call them, live with the black fellas a little bit, and the Aboriginals, and just hunt with them and kill with them and feast with them, and just film their culture and just immerse myself in it a little bit for a project. And then next fall, just have some hunts that I'm bebopping here and there in the mountains, and I'll try to slip away and do some stuff without the camera as well.
Nice.
Yeah, try to get some time in the mountains.
Well, now going back to Matt, so where can people find you?
Oh, so Donnie Vincent on Facebook. I think that's basically all you have to search, and then Instagram too.
Yeah. And then your website, is it?
DonnieVincent.com.
Oh, well, that's pretty easy.
DONNIE.
I'm going to follow you on Instagram after looking at it, because it looks like a really cool page. So
I appreciate it.
I got a couple Donnie Vincent shirts.
I do too.
Videos, like, I've got even the. I don't know what you call that. It's not like it's a picture, but it's on a piece of metal.
Yeah, it's just
print on
just
tin.
a print, printed on metal.
It's in my office. Yeah.
Oh, it's badass. Yeah, right on.
Yeah,
that's cool. So yeah, we have some other stuff that along those lines that's coming out this year, and we're doing I'm doing a giveaway in another couple of weeks, where I'm going to give away. We did a short video for National Geographic called "Who We Are." Why I lay out, why I hunt. And so I'm going to give away the bow that I used in that film, and then I'm going to give away basically like my whole gear kit, but brand new stuff, my TP, my stove. That's awesome. The custom knife. There's a custom knife builder out of Florida named David Maple. He'll murder me for mentioning his name on this. But if you guys, I don't know if you guys are knife guys, but this dude's knives are, and I'm not talking about works of art, I'm talking about so stupidly sharp, and they say stay so stupidly sharp. It is like you touch a deer with it and it just opens them up like a zipper. It is unbelievable. He handcrafts each one, beats it out of red hot steel, and he used to be a farrier for horses.
Oh wow.
And he can't do that anymore because it broke his body down, so now he basically uses those techniques to make knives. So I'm going to give away one of his knives. I do a lot of work with Otterbox. I'm going to give away some of their new adventure coolers. Even though I don't work with Sitka Gear, I have a lot of friends that are at Sitka Gear, and so they sent me essentially like $5,000 or $6,000 in Sitka clothing, because they don't want the dude to be naked. So I'll send that stuff off, and a few other things. But I'm basically going to give away this huge kit. So
awesome
to one dude. So yes, but that's what we got going on.
Fucking awesome, man. Like,
I appreciate it, you guys.
Favorite interview.
Right.
I could sit here and talk to Donnie for like 2 hours and just like pick his brain, but we got to move on. We got our interview like waiting, ready to go. So thanks a lot, man.
Thanks, Donnie.
Can't thank you enough.
Appreciate it.